I'm Jonny Smith.
I'm Richard Porter.
And this is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things. I feel the pressure sometimes on this podcast because we've been doing this now for 4 yees in audio,
yes.
in audio form, in video form. I don't know, several years prior to that.
Yeah.
But we've never actually run out of things to say, which is a surprise.
Are you telling me that this is the week?
Yeah,
I got nothing.
If you could see me, I've just thrown a towel in, just like a little lightweight tea towel, the sort of thing that you get when you go on holiday to somewhere average.
Yeah.
And I've thrown it in and gone, I don't actually know if I've got anything to say today.
Well, let me tell you about a few strange and interesting things that I saw. I've been on the road quite a bit this past week.
Oh, you hear
Which is
it.
unusual for me, because usually you're on the road a lot, aren't you, because of filming.
Oh, seriously, I've done some serious motorway work this week.
Oh, have you? Well, so have I. I did some I've just general road work, really, all kinds of sizes and widths of road, if you're interested.
Girths of road.
And so I saw a few things, and I've managed to remember them enough that when I stopped, I noted them down.
Great
One
idea.
of them, and perhaps most notably, was Saturday. I saw a Thundersley Invacar. You
What?
know those?
Yes.
The little blue cars from the 70s and 80s
Yes.
that they used to give to disabled people. They were effectively sort of like national health cars, weren't they? Because they were owned by the government.
That's right, you couldn't buy them.
You couldn't buy them, you sort of leased them effectively. And I was pretty certain that the government then took them back, and with developments in mobility adaptation controls for showroom cars that weren't sort of little three-wheeled fiberglass things.
Death traps.
Yeah, death traps. They became a bit redundant. And I thought the government took them back and destroyed them all.
I think
Although
it tried to.
Didn't Ian Hubnut have one?
Ian at Hubnut on YouTube has one. It's his.
Does he still have it?
It's the sort of figurehead of his YouTube channel. He's still got it. TWOC, as it's called, TWC, I think it's nicknamed.
Oh, I wonder if it was him. Well, anyway, so the reason I bring this up is because I saw an Invacar on Saturday, but not just saw it. It was on the M6 motorway.
What?
Yeah. Now, it was around Birmingham, and what I think is, sometimes you can sort of just kind of dip onto the M6 and almost immediately get off again just to sort of get around Birmingham.
Yeah.
It was on the inside at one of those slightly complicated junctions where there's a bit of merging and leaving. So I don't think it was in for the long haul. I don't think he was like, oh, I'll be in Carlisle before you know it.
Oh, my gosh.
Even so, it was slightly rancid weather, and it was the M6, and it was the traffic was moving freely for once.
Yes.
So that would have been a fairly bracing sort of ride, I would have said.
Oh, I mean,
in one of those little cars.
Not even Wing Commander Andy Green, the fastest man in the world from Thrust, SSC, etc., etc. Not even he would do that. He wouldn't even embark on that. It aggrieves Thundersley in Invacar.
Sorry, everyone. That's too dangerous.
Now, were they 4-stroke or 2? I always wanted to think they were 2-stroke.
What did they did? They had some. Did they have sort of like a static engine, but made to become a car engine? Let's have a look.
Well, they might have had several different engines. I want to say Greaves, because some of them were badged as Greaves Invacar, and Greaves made motorcycle and sidecars throughout the pre-war and post-war, British company. Greaves used to make really good motocross bikes before they were called motocrosses, because remember, motocross bikes were called scramblers.
Yes.
And then, I don't know when they became Moto X, but it was in my childhood that it went from one to the other.
Well, now, according to Wikipedia,
look,
half of the Invacars were made by AC, off of Cobra fame, in Ditton. The rest were made by Invacar Limited in Thundersley, Essex. So I guess this is where they become known as the Thundersley Invacar, because that's where they came from. But
oh my gosh, I've just thought of
not helping me now.
Just thought of the ultimate 2-car garage. It's got to be a Shelby Cobra, AC Shelby Cobra 427. And you go, yeah, but for city work, I use my AC Invacar, of course, because it's just a little bit more nippy.
Yeah. So, yes, you're the ultimate AC enthusiast. You have to completist. This says early Invacars featured a 150cc Villiers motorbike engine. But by the time the Type 70 version came along, so that's the one that I think you and I probably remember from our childhoods, that came along in 1973. The power unit was uprated. Initially, a 500cc engine was fitted with uprated transmission. By the end of production in 1977, it was increased to 598cc.
That's big. That's quite big. Ian's is quick. Having watched Ian's videos, it's quick.
Yeah, it says they could do over 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is terrifying because they're three-wheeled. For people who don't know what this is, obviously we'll put some details on the Patreon, but they're three-wheeled, one front wheel, two back.
Yeah.
And they sort of have the look, in a way, of like a child's drawing of a Ford Anglia, because they've got a kind of upright... Notchback, yeah. And, I mean, they do look terrifyingly unstable, particularly at 70. And they were all blue, weren't they? All light blue.
They were all the same colour. I was going to say sort of a pigeon blue, slightly dusty pigeon blue. And they had a sliding door. I think only one door, or was it two doors?
Yes.
And so obviously
right.
it was for wheelchair access, and they had handlebars instead of a steering wheel.
Yeah.
I've sat in one. I've never driven one. I keep threatening to do a road test on one.
Supposedly, some people had them still until 2003. Feels quite recent. But
what, like from the NHS?
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell.
That's the thing about that blue. The blue that they were, actually sort of in isolation, quite tasteful, quite Farrow and Ball if you put it on a wall. But when it's put on that car, it's somehow very medical looking. It's short of being bandage beige, it's a very medical colour. It looks like it wipes down easily, and you just go, oh.
It is medical. It is, isn't it?
Well, anyway, if you were the absolute Trojan who was driving a Thundersley Invacar up the M6 on a weekend, then I salute you, sir or madam, because that was quite an endeavour, and I enjoyed seeing it. Well,
you've just reminded me, actually, of the fact that maybe I do have things to say, which is probably good for anyone listening to the podcast. I was dodging some immense floods yesterday morning. Anyone interested? The A421 had a stretch of it that was under 2 metres of water, and that had happened within about an hour and a half. So avoiding that, I went through a couple of Bedfordshire villages. One of them, I went past this row of quite new school terraced houses, probably 80s terraced houses. And on the front lawn was an X-type Jaguar, not vandalised, I hasten to add, because I know we've had some really weird sort of satanic Jags kicking about in recent time. This wasn't. Yeah. It was X-type in champagne and not modified in any way, but I clocked the number plate, which I thought was quite fun. And it was H15 cat. So just his cat.
His cat?
Yeah, just his cat.
Okay.
And I thought, it's champagne, so absolutely retirement spec coloration.
Yeah. Unless it being on a Jaguar is total coincidence and it's just owned by Steve Hiscott, and he's going, no, it's nothing to do with the Jag. I used to have it on a Lexus, actually.
And his name is Hiscott.
Hiscott. Yes, it's pronounced Hiscott.
It could be, couldn't it? It could be. And then
it's hard to know.
As I was daydreaming about his cat X-type in champagne, do you remember that Jag XJR that you used to have? I know you do, because it's one of your favourite cars you've owned, I think.
Yes.
There was one of those in all the traffic trying to divert from this flooded area, and it was in black. I think yours was black.
It was.
And it was absolutely immaculate. I might have memorised the number plate, which I'll send to you, because I did wonder whether it was your old car. Because I know Richard Hammond own it and then sell it and then own it again and then sell it again.
Yeah, as far as I know, he's still got it.
Okay.
The last 3 letters of the plate are... Well, it's no great secret because he's done videos on it. The last 3 letters of the plate are ASP. ASP.
Okay,
Yeah.
that just sounds like a mild insult.
It's a type of snake, isn't it, as well, which is what I always thought was sort of
Dirty little ass.
apposite and yet not.
Okay, so this one isn't. This
never...
one's ULO.
Oh, okay.
On the W,
Ulo.
Reg.
Yeah, mine was a T. Speaking of plates that may or may not be appropriate, I forgot to tell you about what I saw the other week, and I think it was on a Peugeot 3008. The number plate that was clearly meant to say Big Lynn.
What?
Yeah, Big Lynn.
Big Lynn.
Ooh, Big Lynn. Now, Big Lynn's a sort of landlady name, isn't it? Uh-oh, don't mess with Big Lynn.
Oh.
Get out of my pub, says Big Lynn. So
Big Lynn would hurt you.
Big Lynn would absolutely break you in half if you crossed her.
Without taking the cig out of her mouth.
Exactly. Without a single part of her quite elaborate makeup getting smudged. Big Lynn, I thought, oh, here we go. So this was on a dual carriageway. I'm looking forward to getting past Big Lynn and having a good look as I go past at what Big Lynn actually looks like if it's the way I imagine her. So imagine my disappointment when actually quite a slight lady was driving the car and she was sitting far too close to the wheel.
Oh, gosh. What airbag face destruction
Full
distance?
That's taking your head clean off if the airbag deploys. Also, people who have the seat back sort of over centre.
Yes, so it's tipping you into the dash.
That cannot be comfortable. The human spine isn't designed to do that. What are you playing at? That was Big Lynn. She didn't seem impressively big or Lynn-like at all. She was a lady with a terrible driving position.
It's so true about the over-centre thing. I've always looked with a confused expression when I see that. I go, they're actively falling out of the seat. So are they just doing a constant core exercise? So by the time they've done a week's worth of motorway journeys, they're fucking ripped. They've got a six-pack.
That's it. It's one of those things that people who are interested in muscle building always talk about crunching. Are they crunching? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a stomach crunch.
Crunch, there we go.
Yeah,
Never like the sound of that. Crunch your stomach. I don't want to.
No, I don't want to. I feel sick. I've just eaten a massive bowl of porridge. Don't make me do that. Yeah.
Something else I saw on my travels last week was, I've just written in my notes, Steamy SLK.
Steamy?
Yeah, it's been very rainy off and on, and It was a rainy day, and there was a man in slow-moving traffic in a first-generation SLK, and it was incredibly steamed up. And he'd cracked the driver's window, I would say 2 centimetres. And it's like, that's not enough, clearly. There's a leak in that car.
Yeah, he needs to do both windows down and heating on.
Yeah, exactly. But he hadn't. It was almost like, but I could see him even through the steamed up driver's window. And I could just see older guy. And he had this look of sort of resigned determination, as if he was almost in denial about how much condensation there was in his SLK. Is the Mercedes leaking, Peter? No, it's designed to be like that.
Yeah.
It's for health reasons. Dry air is very bad for you when you're driving.
I accidentally kicked a bottle of Buxton Spring over in the passenger seat. I just can't be bothered to sort it out.
I know. It was so steamed up, and I just thought, oh God, I bet that smells as well, because it's that folding hardtop is leaking furiously, but he can't be bothered to get it fixed because the car's not worth that much.
I like those first-gen Mercs SLKs, but whenever I follow one, my brain just reads the word silk. So I always think it's the Mercedes Silk.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to call it that. I don't like the noise that the 230 compressor version makes when it's got the auto box. It's a very slack and unpleasant sound.
Slack?
Yeah, really, there's a slackness to it. It's just, I don't know.
Is it like...
It's not a pleasant sound.
It's like a sort of fretless bass. There's no defined note change, so you can't really put your finger on the progress or not. You just go, has that done a thing? I don't know. Yeah, because we've talked about fretless basses. They're almost the sort of the whale calling sound of the music world. They kind of are, aren't they? They're so slithery.
Well, I would say first-gen Mercedes SLK 230 compressor is the fretless bass of the car world. Just that slack, slurring, blending, slightly annoying sound.
Oh, now, gosh.
I have some news for you that you may not like.
Oh, sugar.
Well, because you may remember, I'm trying to remember when it was, a while ago now, we were contacted by some listeners in Ireland who, in fact, we've heard from before. They've been to live shows and things, who were had been contacted by the cause or representatives of the cause about getting their dad's old Lexus LS going.
Oh, yeah, the core dad Lexus.
Yeah, so these two guys, Connor and Damien, who we've met, and they were going to try and get Papa Core's LS going again. Connor's been in touch just to give us an update. He says, good news, it's running. The bad news is that you missed your shot at going over to do a sort of drive find. The cause didn't want to wait any longer to get the car going. So they just, because
are they on tour right now? I think they are.
I think they might be, because they were at the Singapore Grand Prix, weren't they? Thank you to many people who messaged to tell us about them being on the Grand Prix coverage, which is
well, I think
and
Formula
looking
One
very
themselves.
well on it as well.
The Formula One official site. Instagram flashed up a few pictures, and thank you for everybody. In fact, I've had to sort of shut my DMs down because it got swamped by people going, look, the cause are making the Grand Prix look good. And I go, I know they are.
It's okay. Connor says, we know the car's been sitting for over 5 years, and we're not sure if it's been started over that time, but needless to say, after some tests, it started up very undramatically.
I bet it did.
Because it's a Lexus.
I want to know what they're now going to do with it. Are they going to take it around with them on the tour?
Well, maybe not that, but Connor says it's currently being recommissioned and will stay in the family.
Can I just put the word out and say, when do they need it delivering to them? And if they need me to drive it to deliver it to them, maybe it could be available. I'm making that sound creepy. It doesn't need to be at all.
No, it's okay. We'll take this off pod, and maybe you can drop Connor a line.
Yeah.
While I'm here, Connor also said it's Damien's birthday. In fact, it was Damien's birthday last week on the 26th. He says if you give him a quick happy birthday, I know he would be delighted. So belated happy birthday, Damien.
Happy birthday, Damien. You share a birthday with my son. So that must make you an SSG.
While we're sort of doing shout-outs, we don't normally do them, but we had a message from another listener, Robin Lewis, who says, I'm hoping you can cheer up a dear friend and valued Smith & Sniff Patreon, Sam Hopwood, who came off his bicycle while warming up for a mountain bike race at the weekend. The flute didn't even make the race as he fell off in the warm-up on that side of things.
Oh, my gosh.
The dickwad is just out of hospital. Robin's really going in on the insults here for a friend, but these are Robin's words, not ours. Robin says the dickwad is just out of hospital after having his poorly shoulder put back together and is recuperating back home in Cornwall.
Oh, wow. So a serious off then.
Yeah. Sam is old enough to know better, but as an avid listener to this podcast, a shout out would at least make him smile and feel better for a couple of minutes until the drugs kick in. Yikes. Okay, so, get well soon, Sam. That sounds hurty, so I hope you're all right.
Get better, Sam, and remember, there's no point in warming up for a race when you've got 2 bags of cans of Kestrel on the bars, because all it's going to do is end up toppling you, all right? So maybe if it makes you feel better, because I was going to say, after my comment about maybe us doing a charity no-name full suspension mountain bike ride out in Bristol, we've been inundated by people saying, are you actually going to do this? Because I'm totally up for it. maybe, Sam, you might be able to step in and talk to us. We could try and get something started. I am serious, Rich. I feel like this is going to happen. It's gathering momentum, and maybe in the darkness of winter, it could be what we all need.
Oh my God! Okay. Why are we doing it in winter?
We're doing it in winter because we're doing it in winter, okay? And
right.
Also, no one gets sunburn, and also the kinetic energy warms our cockles, and also darker days will mean that the strobe light, which I am going to fit to my mountain bike, will flicker a little bit more effectively. I'm putting fairy lights on the frame.
With any luck, your rear mudguard has snapped off, and it's a slightly damp day, so you end up with a massive brown stripe up your back, like a sort of reverse skunk.
Oh, when we celebrate the end of the ride out, when we go to a pub and order some local scrumpy, yeah, I'm definitely going to have such a wet gusset. I will not sit all night. I will stand with my legs a little bit further apart than is comfortable for most people in the room, like a front man of a metal band standing.
Yes,
it would be
metal stance.
Yeah,
good.
You're going to need to do that just to let the gusset kind of dry out by the fireplace.
Just one more shout out to a listener called Anton in South Africa. I'm not going to read Anton's message out. He just wants to say thank you for the podcast, and it's given us something to listen to during a lot of driving and a pretty, as he describes, a dog pile over 2 years past. When he went into detail about that, I think dog pile is underselling it. Anton has had a horrible, horrible time, and so I just want to give him a shout out and say thank you for your message and hope you're doing okay. Also, while we're here in the letters box, Ben Rodway. Now, Ben, under an alias, wrote that nice bit of music that we now close out the Friday Autosot shows with.
Oh,
yeah. Remember he sent it in. He called the track Stellantis, and his claimed the artist was Polonaise Skyline featuring Arna, and. It was so good and so much better than the bit of music that I'd stuck on the end that I decided to keep on using it. Ben, though, is a properly trained musician and studier of music. He studied early and Baroque music at Trinity College in London.
Baroque?
So he's messaged to just pick up on something we were saying last week about retro instruments, and to point out that the harpsichord was already falling out of favour by the 1750s.
Falling out of favour?
Falling out of favour because the pianoforte, which literally translates as soft loud, and was a spot of nominative determinism, as the harpsichord didn't have any dynamic range, much like a non-Peugeot diesel of the 80s, says Ben. By this time, orchestral and ensemble instrumentation had developed to where we are today, with flutes and trombones every bit as prominent as they deserve to be. So when we were going on about lutes and things, we were a little bit wide of the mark. Basically, they'd got the whole gamut of instruments sorted by the 18th century. Anyway, thank you for that, Ben, and thank you for the tune.
As a fan of lots of TV and style and things and cars, of course, from the 60s, I remember the harpsichord having a bit of a renaissance in a lot of 60s movie scores and stuff like that, like swinging 60s. There was a lot of harpsichord in some of the theme tunes to famous 60s TV shows, or unless I've imagined that. But I've had a few people contact us recently to say 60s person that we do, they're enjoying it, but they feel like it's shunned the regular inclusion of the Stellantis beating heart dance anthem. And some people are actually annoyed that it's not done so much anymore. Ooh. So I feel like I should do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Stellantis. I listened to a bit of Scooter the other day by accident, I hasten to add.
Oh, yeah.
It's really embarrassing.
It's terrible, isn't it?
It's quite embarrassing, but I think he's got the last laugh, because I'm pretty sure as we sit, he's probably a millionaire.
Oh, almost certainly.
He just looks like a sort of cosplay Mad Max tryhard with one of those old-fashioned microphones that you shield as you sing into it. You know, like a Brat Pack style 1950s microphone. He's just a He's just a shit Euro steampunk, I think. Is what I'm getting at.
That's the name of his third album, wasn't it? Shit Euro Steampunk.
Although, if Scooter's listening to this, I don't mean any of that. I'm just goading you so you can come along on this not yet sorted out charity no-name full suspension mountain bike ride out, because I think that you would be very, very welcome in the front row.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Can I, since we're just doing back refs to last week, can I say thank you to everybody who pointed out that we missed a bit of a sitter when we were talking about the nuisance motorcycle in my neighbourhood, the constant farty trumpet biker twat who goes past my house at 5 to 6 every morning. I was saying it's some kind of faux 7/8 scale Harley Davidson. We missed being able to say that it's a Harley Davidson.
Of course.
Many listeners pointed out that one, which is fair enough. That's what it'll be known as from now on. Also, you were talking about car parts shop man who's slowly deflating.
Yeah.
And it seemed very familiar. And thank you to everyone. Peter Heeman was the first listener and patron to point out that you've talked about a deflating driving instructor before.
Oh yeah, so what? My old driving instructor.
Your old driving instructor.
Yeah, when
he wasn't swearing and saying deeply misogynist things about passers-by. He was deflating. That's
true, actually, but he was from a completely different area and long predates, I think, deflating motor parts phone answering guy. It's just funny how I've picked up on both of them, but they are totally different people and unrelated incidents.
Do you just get to a certain age and start deflating? I don't know.
I think it's somebody that has to interact with the public a lot and simply has got to a point in their career where they don't want to. So every morning they go to work knowing they have a job where they've just got to talk to lots of people. They're like, oh, for goodness sake, I just don't want to, because I know I'm going to get bombarded by flutes. Nobody wants that.
Maybe that's it. It's just a long sigh of despair.
Yeah, I think it is. It is the despair thing. But I hadn't noticed the Motor Factor guy until my brother pointed out. Like, why do they do that? And then I phoned them 5 minutes afterwards just to check that he wasn't lying. And sure enough, I got it.
But I imagine some jobs quite intense and stressful, and people are rude.
Yeah.
And you've got to sort of keep up the pace. I don't know, working behind a bar in a busy pub or something, or waiting tables in a busy restaurant.
Yeah, a cafe, yeah.
But working in a motor factors, particularly a sort of independent one in a small town, is maybe that's quite a chill job.
Yeah, I think so.
And he's just like, the way you just sigh with satisfaction as you sank into an armchair with a lovely big cup of tea.
Yeah, it's not unfriendly.
That's a permanent state of mind.
That's right. It's not hostile or anything. I mean, it's all the one that I always like. It's always the sigh with the plus the VAT. It's the VAT. I love that. It's because they know and you know that the price was looking good until they said, and of course, plus the VAT.
Well, it's just suddenly bestowing on you the need to do maths, which
I hate.
If you're no good at maths, it's just you just suddenly go, well, that's a nuisance.
That's why
my brain now.
I couldn't live in California for that because of plus California state tax. It's like, can you just tell me the price of the thing?
I know.
That's all I want to know.
It's infuriating.
Like,
I've had this out with my wife. I go, just tell your people to put the actual full fucking price on the shelves. And she's like, well, but it's more complicated than that. It's not. It's just adding up.
It's so
but she
true.
said, because it's not. I went, just, if you're Target or some large national chain, but just your California stores put the fucking state tax on, and then that's on the label. And she's like, oh, but it's not, because there might be county tax as well. It's like, well, then sort yourselves out. There's too much tax for a nation that believes in liberty and low taxation. Actually, there's loads of fucking tax in America.
Loads.
You're just pretending it's not because it's not written on the price tag.
I'm with you, Rich. I'm punching the air as we speak, and I'm waving my Smith
It's one of these things I feel needlessly strongly about, considering I don't live in the United States, but I do have to go there a bit, and it always catches me out. You just go, oh wow, look, that pair of trousers is only $14. That'll be $99. Why? Because of state tax and county tax,
trouser
Thursday tax, trouser tax, pants tax.
Yeah,
it's just it's exhausting. I don't know how people cope.
Maybe trouser tax, because obviously the states varies depending on the state that you're in, and that's what makes it complicated for outsiders like us. We don't really understand. But do you remember ages and ages ago you talked about motorway trousers, motorway services trousers?
Yeah.
And I look out for them now because of what you've said, and I do wonder whether or not, is it like a motorway services like this sort of unsung duty free, where are those trousers, because I've never looked, are those trousers suspiciously cheap, and you just go, I don't even like them, and I'm not even needing trousers right now, but hell, I just came in here for a coffee and a poo, and I've just seen these combats, and I'm thinking, they're £8. What's going on?
Well, that's it, because motorway service areas feel like they're sort of the international waters of shopping. All bets are off. I mean, in fairness, often the prices are, in fact, higher than the real world because they've got you. But maybe that doesn't apply to trousers. They're not expecting you to buy trousers. It's almost a test of whether you're paying attention.
Well, these aren't trousers, but I went into some motorway services about 1 a.m. after a very long job.
I think that's one of the single most depressing things that a human being could do.
It was actually. The LED lights were very blue and bluey white and intense. I tried to see if they were selling coffee of any repute, and they weren't. But right next to the sort of complicated coffee machine that claims that it's good quality, but I don't believe it, I noticed there was an accessory shelf which had lots of complicated things that go in the cigarette lighter, but also those knobs which clamp onto the steering wheel, like a forklift truck or maybe a lorry driver.
You were tempted, weren't you?
I actually stood there at 1 a.m. going, I came in for a coffee. Should I leave with a knob for my steering wheel? I don't know why.
I mean, just to give it a try, because you might find that this is like a whole new world, and it makes driving so much more interesting or relaxing or fun.
Yeah. Well, I thought to myself, here, now, that works on vehicles with really slow steering racks, okay? A really lazy rack.
Yeah.
But imagine if there was a race series all of a sudden. Johnny's head is lit up with ideas. Imagine a Caterham one-make series, but you have to drive one-handed with the knob.
Oh my God! That's that. The wheel in Caterham's is tiny.
The wheel in the Caterham, and also full lock, I think, is half a turn.
Yeah.
So in a racetrack situation, half a turn, but you're only doing it one-handed with a knob clamped onto the steering wheel. Can you imagine the tank slapping coming out of a big corner?
Well, you're going to be robbed of so much accuracy, aren't you? It's going to, or maybe not.
And you have to, the hand that you're not driving with, has to constantly rest on the gear knob. So, it's a bit of a dad thing to do historically. I remember watching dads driving along with one hand constantly resting on the knob.
No, well, now, hang on. Not your dad, surely.
I don't know. My dad wasn't a knob rester.
No, nor was mine, because, as we've established before, your dad, my dad, very much cut from the same engineer's cloth.
Yeah.
And my dad was always vehemently against any kind of knob resting because he said it was bad for the mechanism.
Of course. Oh, because this is gearboxes where the gear stick is directly attached into the box, right? So it's not a linkage.
Well, I think even if it's not, I think his argument was, that it's designed and supposed to move around a little bit with the torque reaction and all the rest of it, and that you're sort of restricting that and you're putting excess strain on the mechanism. So, no, he preached very much clean knob use.
Well,
only touch it when
absolutely necessary.
Yeah, it's not a handrest. It is a functional item.
I wonder if anybody else is like that with the way they drive.
You've set my mind going now, though, because once again I have to do some motorway work tomorrow and again in a couple of days after that.
Yeah.
Quite a long stretch.
Yeah.
And a bit of A-road work as well.
Yeah.
But that may be even better for sort of off-brand service stations. I wonder if I can buy a knob. Now, I'm going to be driving, for the most part, my 24 Tesla, which has actually got quite a small wheel and quite a quick steering. Slightly too much, in fact. I think the rack on that car is a snadge too fast for the type of car it is.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I can buy a knob. And
a knob on a Tesla.
And some knob steering.
Have you ever driven a forklift truck?
Do you know what? I haven't. Have you?
Yeah, I have. I drove one about this time last year when I went to see my friend Nick in North Wales, and he had a warehouse that he was moving some. He had a big delivery of pallets and things of high pressure gas bottles.
Oh God!
And he said to me, he looked at me, he said, "Have you ever driven a forklift?" I said, "Do you know? I don't think I have." He goes, "Go on, then I'll teach you." I went, "What? With pallets full of brand new high pressure gas bottles? Is that the right idea?"
I can't see any problems with this.
He just looked at me and he winked at me and he went, "You best not fuck it up then." And I felt the pressure, but it's very precise and it's quite a satisfying machine to drive because you have zero. What do they call it? Zero turn steering on the back, so it can do an instant 360 without moving the front tyres.
Yes.
And of course, you can put extensions on the forks, depending on if you want to go deeper into a thing, deeper forklift truck penetration. And it's the only bit that gets very dicey is because they don't have any suspension and they don't have pneumatic tyres, or the one that I drove is like more of a warehouse thing. If you go over a threshold, like from the outside to the inside of a building, even something that's about a centimetre tall, if you go over it at any more than about 3 miles an hour, it feels like you've just driven into like you've driven off a big curb in a sports car. It really shatters your teeth and you go, "Oh gosh, I've ruined everything." But then after that, my algorithm is now serving me up precision forklift driving, and there's world competitions for this, Rich.
What?
Were you aware of the fact there's a world championship forklift driving thing?
I did not know this. No.
Well, it's. Do you remember? It's like it's indoor. So presumably the forklifts are either electric or they might be running LPG, but. They do it in front of a crowd, like stadium motocross or those amazing indoor motorcycle trials where they jump from huge reels of cables and faux boulders and stuff. It's like that. It's a real spectacle. There's even pyrotechnics when somebody does a really tricky challenge. Yeah.
Where does this take place?
Well, I think it's in Europe. I want to say,
right. I
think it's either Scandinavia or the Netherlands or Germany.
I was going to say the Netherlands.
Were you?
Germany.
I
would say there's zero chance that this takes place in Spain. They've got better things to do. Like lovely weather.
Well, we've established in Spain they're all about the riding the motorbike, a scooter erratically with a
exactly.
token
Now,
helmet.
I was going to say you could fill a stadium with just a championship on how to effortlessly get off the back of your mate's scooter while it's still moving.
Oh, we've got it here.
Spain.
The Stapler Cup. It's called the Stapler Cup, and it's German. And
lovely.
Of course. And it is the Stapler Cup, the Forklift World Championships. Goodness
Please,
me.
God, tell me that the winner has to shake up and then spray a bottle of champagne, but with their forklift.
Gosh, that would be really cool, wouldn't it? I'm just seeing if we've missed the 2024 one, because I want to go to this because it looks...
I want you to go to this. I might come with you.
Imagine a couple of pints of decent IPA watching some guys.
IPA?
Yeah.
Steins. You can have Steins. It's Germany.
Oh, I can't.
They're huge and foamy and, yes, and currywurst and... I really want to go to this now. It sounds excellent.
You just suddenly
imagine how
it.
many moustaches and mullets there'll be.
Oh, and also workers' dungarees because it's Germany.
Yeah, but there'll be so much good Euro hair that we may find ourselves facing the wrong way in the venue, just looking at the hair rather than the forklifts.
Oh shit! They've got a media office. I'll forward it to you when we
sloshing with excellent German beer.
Well, I'll forward you the media office. We'll get in touch with a chap called Florian Muller. And say, listen, we've probably missed the 2024 championships, but for the 2025 championships, would you like to?
Does it not say?
Hang on. I've got there's a forklifters Hall of Fame. So these are the best. It's Race of Champions.
There's a hall that's full of racking.
This is Race of Champions for forklift drivers.
I think it probably is, isn't it?
It really is. Well, okay, I'll test you. Who was the 2008 champion?
Rudy Bellhoff.
No, false. It was Stefan Leifels.
Oh, I shouldn't have just made up a name.
And 2011
Wait a frigging second, Jonathan.
What?
It's here. I've just found it on the website. It's next month.
What? It's
as in like literally the month that starts tomorrow. October the 25th and 26th in Aschaffenburg. Aschaffenburg? You can watch it live on YouTube or on Sports Deutschland TV. 25th and 26th.
It's on a sports channel on television. Spunk.
Yes. And it's basically in 4 weeks' time.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a Friday and a Saturday.
Oh, gosh. That's so good.
Bloody hell.
Well,
bloody hell.
I'm going to see if the diary is clear enough. And damn it, if it isn't clear, it's going to have to be next year. But maybe, listeners, is anybody going to the Stapler Cup World Forklift Championships? Let us know. And if there's a chance of getting a T-shirt or a cap, I'm down for that.
I mean, they've got a logo, haven't they?
They have got
Stapler Cup.
The Stapler Cup has a logo.
I think you're probably right that it's Stapler because it's in Germany, but it is just spelt stapler, isn't it? Which is and the logo actually looks like a pair of it's forklift prongs.
It's a pair of forklift prongs. What did you think it was? Bent legs?
I don't know. I thought they were two little ducks on water or something.
You flute.
Look, no, go on. This is like some kind of psychometric test. When you look at that logo.
I can't believe it. Okay. Wow. So they've had qualies all year. They had the qualifier in Belgium in June. They had the qualifier in the Netherlands in June. They had the qualifier in Germany in July. They had a qualifier in China in July. Goodness me, this is serious.
It's really pan-global, isn't it?
Well, I'm not entering it because I'm a novice. But
I'd like to see you try just blithering around in the arena, knocking stuff over.
Well, they call me out the audience when I'm in my third Stein and go, "Oh no, not me! Yes. No, I'll just watch this one if that's okay, guys."
It's got a real sort of. I mean, I don't think they're encouraging the forklift drivers to sort of attack each other, but it's got. Looking at the pictures of the arena, it's got a real Robot Wars feel to it.
It does have a real robot. There's, like you said, there's lots of flashing spotlights and pyrotechnics. All well orchestrated. It is like maybe this is the spiritual successor to Robot Wars for men of a certain age, it seems. Yeah.
Well, can I just read you the blurb that I found here on the website? It says, there is only one official world championship in forklift driving, ! And it takes place in the home of forklift sports, the Arena Aschaffenburg. What? Starting in 2024, the Forklift World Championships will be held in 3 disciplines for the first time, replacing the German Forklift Driving Championship. On the completely redesigned championship course and in front of a breathtaking scenery, the world's best #forklift heroes will show their unique skills with forks.
Well, what about their unique skills without forks? I'd like to know that.
But this blurb ends with, and off the course? ? A diverse entertainment programme, as well as a free closing concert featuring a top-class music act, awaits all forklift sports fans.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's going to be what's-his-face, isn't it? Life is life.
Oh, it's going to be Opus. Oh, my gosh.
Opus. It's going to be Opus. It's Opus or Hasselhoff, because I know what Germany likes when it comes to a good time. And I can't think of anything else that's not that cliche.
I've just found their merchandise. They've got a really, really high-quality stitched baseball cap, and it's a silhouette of a guy like doing the muscle arms, the big guns muscle arms. Yeah. And it says on the side, hashtag forklift heroes. This is amazing. You can buy children's T-shirts.
Well, children like forklift trucks. I mean, I don't think they like them more than,
Life is life.
Adults. Well, gosh, this is food for thought, isn't it?
Sorry, listeners, we've really gone off piece now. I mean, it's still a vehicle.
We're just having can I just briefly change the subject? Because last week or the week before, you were recommending Debbie Harry's autobiography.
Yeah.
And then I recommended a book called The Viking and the Samurai, which is about the long relationship between Honda and Rover, written by someone who was a key part of that relationship on the Rover side. A listener called Nick Mullins has written in.
More on the Rover side of things, did you mean?
On the Rover side of things,
yeah.
Nick says, now, I love a book to read, especially if it's car-related, and was really pleased to hear one recommended in the last podcast. I jumped onto Amazon and clicked buy now. Then I went away for a couple of nights with work and have just returned home. On my desk was an opened Amazon envelope and a book beside it. Imagine my excitement. When I opened the first page, I read the following. Contains graphic violence, nudity and strong sexual content. What the heck went on at British Leyland, I wondered. After further research, I seem to have been a bit hasty in my purchasing decision, and I suspect I may not be the only listener to fall into the cruel trap inadvertently set by Richard. My wife seems to be looking at me suspiciously this evening, so I'm wondering if she read some of the book and is wondering what has happened to her middle-aged accountant of a husband.
Oh, gosh, what's
Please
that?
advise your listeners of this potential domestic grenade. Now, the upshot is basically there are two books called The Viking and the Samurai.
Oh, gosh.
There's the one about the relationship between Rover and Honda that was started in the late 70s and led to cars such as the Triumph Acclaim and the Rover 200. But there's another one. It's by Chad Westbrook, and it appears to be some sort of erotic novel with a very lo-fi cover.
Really?
So I think, yes. I guess it's self-published. Yes, it's anyway. So what I would advise is go to the Rover 200 and 400 Owners Club website, where they will sell you the Viking and the Samurai that's about the Rover-Honda relationship, and not send you a bit of homemade grot writing.
But what about if one of
called Chad?
What about if one or two of the people from the Rover Owners Club moonlight as a writer of erotic grot, and they actually go, oh yeah, I'll sell some of that.
Maybe there's just two versions of this. There's an erotic one and the one that just focuses more on how they negotiated the production rights for the second generation 200. I don't know. I mean, it's
what? But they both got identical sleeves.
You can't tell until it gets to a bit where suddenly the CEO of Honda takes his trousers off. Anyway, well, thank you for that, Nick. I apologise for the confusion. Do buy carefully if you're considering that book, which I would recommend. The Rover one, not the other one.
No, I'd like to read both now, just to compare notes. We should.
Well, exactly. Yeah,
do you not think?
You never know. Now, also, I said I did quite a lot of motorway work. In the past week or so. A lot of that was done in a borrowed car, which you're going to hate.
Oh gosh.
Well, I think you will, because it's a very high-performance SUV.
Oh, gosh.
It was the Porsche Cayenne Coupe.
No, not the Beetleback Cayenne.
It's the Beetleback Cayenne. But this was the Turbo GT E-Hybrid.
Oh, gosh.
Have you seen this?
I've heard. I looked at the press release about it, and I moved on.
Were you furious?
I was furious because it's just, as you're just firing me up now, because it's just everything that the automotive industry doesn't need at the moment.
No, I mean, I would struggle to disagree with that, because it is sort of, in a way, a completely inexplicable car. You go, what? Who needs this? It's like, it's so incredibly powerful that you just sort of go, I'm not seeing the need. It's a V8.
Yes.
It has a V8 petrol engine, and then it has electric motors.
Yep.
So total output is 739 PS. So what's that? About sort of 730 horsepower there.
Bloody hell, that's a lot of...
Should I do some live math? 739.
That's a lot of piston power, that.
729 brake horsepower.
Wow.
I mean, that's just loads, isn't it? That's more than what we used to call supercars, hypercars even.
Yeah.
It's a bananas amount of power.
Yeah.
What I'll say about this car is it's one of these weird things where it's like, I could only liken it to a dancing bear, where you go, that's really impressive. Look at the bear. The bear's doing ballet. That's so impressive. They've made the bear do ballet. And then you kind of go, don't make the bear do ballet.
No.
There's no need for that. It feels almost cruel. There's a piece of engineering.
It's not what it was there for.
No. But, like, as a car, I went up north with the kids, and they really liked it because they thought the back seat was cosy because it's got a black headlining and a sort of kind of dark coloured interior, quite nice Alcantara on the seats and stuff.
Bit of Alan. Everyone loves a bit of Al. Yeah.
So it's actually got loads of legroom, but it also made them feel quite cosy, apparently. So they liked it. We did a total of, over the course of a weekend, I was in the car with the kids for like over 7 hours in 2 stints.
Oh, gosh.
And they were good as gold. And I think that's probably says something about a car that's not aggravating them in any way. But it's by the by. So it's sort of a decent family car. But yeah, this amount of power and then harnessing it and making it go round corners, it's impressive, but at the same time you just go, I'm not quite cottoning on to, it's 154 grand.
Oh my gosh, is it? Wow.
So I'm quite conflicted, because on the one hand I was like, it's a good car. I'll tell you one thing that you will like, because it's a hybrid.
Yeah.
And it's a plug-in hybrid. So I plugged it in and battery up to max before I set off from my place up to Manchester.
Well, you've immediately done more than most of the owners have done. You've unwrapped the charger and plugged it in.
That's
so
the thing.
Good.
You've got to put the work in. Well, it turns out, because it does pay dividends. So, and then I set it. It wants to. If you leave it and it's got a full battery, it wants to be an electric car, and it sets off in e-power mode, and it's just using electric, even up to quite high speeds. But I figured out then that's just obviously it's depleting your battery, and it's not a huge battery on it. It's like just under 22 kilowatt hour usable. So you set it into sort of work it out yourself hybrid mode, and then it's juggling the two. Very, very smooth juggle.
Yep.
In fairness to it, but it just depleted its battery as I got to Manchester. So that's what, nearest, damn it, 200 miles, and it had done 35 miles to the gallon, just over.
That's impressive when they do that. When you use the GPS, or it uses the GPS to be able to eke out all of the moments where it can just cut the engine and use the e-power. I've experienced a couple of big power cars like that, and it is really good. And don't get me wrong, I'm impressed with the fact that engineers managed to get these sorts of cars to stop and go around corners and not body roll.
No, it is. The one thing is, it's got such wide tyres on it. I mean, the grip is huge, but at the same time, I do worry about when the grip runs out, it will happen quickly and catastrophically.
Oh, it'll pull the stage curtain very, very far.
Yes.
Hard right or left, won't it? And when I say that, I mean as soon as it touches any kind of grass, you are just going through woodland upon woodland upon woodland.
Yeah, going through woodland, through Leamington Spa, through the sea. You'll just go, you'll be able to ring people. What are you doing? I'm having an accident.
Go into a reservoir and out the other side of the reservoir.
Yeah. Oh my God, I thought this would stop things. No, through those arrestor beds on hills, and it's just carves through them and out the other side. Unstoppable.
That's my worry. And that
it is. Well, so the other thing is, because the tyres are so wide, sometimes it does suddenly get caught out by camber change and things. And even on the motorway, sometimes it does a little sort of wiggle just because it's sort of caught a cat's eye or something. So there were 315 section tyres on the back, and sometimes you're very aware of it. You just go, oh, hello, they found something, and snuffled off after it. But so yeah, on the way back, the battery was empty and I had nowhere to charge it while I was away. So I just let it behave like a hybrid that can only sort of occasionally use its own battery, but not as and when it really wants to. And on the return run, it did about just under 30 miles to the gallon. So still not terrible, but that was in pretty khaki traffic. So I think it played to its strengths.
So lower average speed, yeah.
But then if you want to get a strop on, I mean, it will absolutely frigging fly down a windy country road, but it's a big and heavy car. I noticed they've somehow left the weight off the spec sheet that I was sent, and I haven't actually looked it up, but I assume it's about 2.5 tons. I'm not entirely sure. I could look
it's bound to be over 2. Bloody hell. It's bound to be.
It's sort of got to be, hasn't it? Because you've got the battery in there and it's a big old engine. I know Porsche are clever about using aluminium and stuff and mixed metals in a trad car, but I just can't believe they could keep the weight off because it's... So anyway, I don't generally like slanty back. In the end, we were supposed to be taking the dog with us, and then in the end we didn't. She stayed home with my wife because I did look at it, and with the battery in the back, the boot floor is quite high, and then the roof line is sloped.
Yeah. So what you're saying,
Richard, stick her in the rear
is
footwells because it's got a transmission tunnel, unlike my old Range Rover or the 24 Tesla. So
it's a shit design. Then is what you're saying. It's crap design.
I would just rather that it was the normal shape Cayenne if it had to be, but then you can't get the GT pack on that, so you don't get...
Oh, it's such a shame when you could have just bought, I don't know, a smaller, more efficient SUV-ish thing with a bigger, more practical boot, and then just with the other money, just bought a 911 as well. Not a new one, but another one. People look at me like I'm idiotic when they go, what do you mean you just buy 2 cars for the same price that I've paid for this? And I go, well, you just do that. What's to stop you?
I don't get it.
I just don't get it.
Oh, here we go.
It can't do it all.
The unladen weight is 2,495 kilos, so 2.5 tons.
2.5 tons, yeah.
Ouch. It does well at disguising it for most of the time, but so like I said, I'm conflicted about this one because on the one hand you just go, no one needs this. On the other hand, it is a very impressive piece of engineering in and of itself. So if you want a dancing bear and you've got £154,000 to spend before options, then there you go.
Well, I've been driving this week. I've been, like I say, a lot of motorway work in a car which is, I think, superior in every way to the one that you've been driving, and possibly faster. And it's the sadly not going into production Skoda Superb Sleeper.
Oh yes,
I will talk in immense detail about this in a future episode off of the Late Break Show channel, which I am affiliated with, but and all that. But I have to tell you that I think this is a car that Skoda should make as a strictly limited vehicle. But if you remember when Audi RS estates or Avants in the early days were sleeperish, which is a distant memory now, because they've all got so kind of stormtroopered up.
Gosh, yeah, I saw an RS6 yesterday, and it's just a cartoon of a car, isn't it?
I think it's got too much, and it's it's all a bit codpiecey. Whereas this Superb, for listeners who aren't aware, Skoda UK has built a one-off Superb estate car.
We talked about it on the podcast a few weeks ago, didn't we? I think when it was announced.
Yeah, that's right, we did. Yeah, and it's the true definition of a sleeper. They've really nailed it, and the way it drives is OMG, SSG.
I'll look forward to that video. Yeah.
And do you know what it absolutely lacks for the better? Any Belendery.
Oh right.
There's no Belendery on that car whatsoever. It's faster than a current RS4.
It's a very tasteful spec, isn't it, as well, I've seen, but it's good.
It is it's a very, very clean example. or tasteful example of the mark. That's what it is.
Well, that's probably a good note on which to wrap things up. But before we do, I have 3 things to tell you. 1, Jonny's engaged in a strange project to give supreme power in Persia to our favourite female singer, under the working title, The Sade of Iran. If that's not to your taste, then there is, of course, as we've just mentioned, the Late Break Show. What's this week's treats for us?
I can't believe you still keep coming up with these.
No, nor can I.
So this week, there's an update on my 2CV, my abandoned 2CV project build. Yeah. And if you haven't seen it already, it's a few days old. The walk round, the auction walk round of the classic car auction, of which there have been some temptations. And if you're listening to this when the auction's ended, which you probably will, you can see what prices these things go for on their website. But there's a small chance that I will have bought a car. I hope I don't, though.
Yes, so we're recording this on Friday. The auction is tomorrow, and thankfully I will be, for the most part, in the car driving, and that is a good way to remove myself from temptation, because there's a couple of things in there that, gosh darn it, I'd like.
It's a buyer's market, mate. I've been saying it for a while now.
There's a buyer's
market right now, and that's what I'm telling you. So listen to watch all that on the channel. And if you think those things are shit, then there's other things on the channel. I think I've done 380 videos now, mate, in 4 years.
Bloody hell!
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it, pal.
A lot of content.
That's why I enjoy sit down way more and more these days. Because
you could do a big car spare shop sigh while you're doing it. Press the back.
Smith and Smith spares. Oh, by the way, one piece of advice before I go. Yeah. If you're trying to listen to this podcast using a smart speaker of the names that you're aware of, it simply does, or maybe it's my voice, it simply doesn't understand. It sends you loads of other things. If you say, oh, can you tell me about Smith and Sniff? Or what is the Smith and Sniff podcast? Or it just goes, Smith and Smith are a pair of inventors from the 1930s who did this. And it gave me 8 pieces of information that I wasn't interested in.
I'm starting to think we should have chosen a different name, or that smart speakers just aren't that smart. Probably a bit of both. Anyway, second thing I've got to tell you is that a few weeks ago, when we were leaving the Festival of the Unexceptional, we met those lovely people from the Waymo channel on YouTube and on the socials, and sat in their camping chairs and talked for a little bit with their coffee table. For people who don't know, they call it a spot cast, because they sit in places and spot cars going by and talk about them, but occasionally they have guests. So we were sort of slightly ad hoc guests, but they really wanted to talk to you at the Festival of the Unexceptional, and they very sweetly afterwards said, actually, if we didn't really realise you were going to turn up, to me. If you ever want to come and join us again, that would be great. So last week I went and sat by a road in Warwickshire with Charlie from Waymo, and we had a nice long chat about Top Gear and Grand Tour and all that sort of stuff. That is now live on the Waymo YouTube channel. It's quite long, and it's mostly me just blithering on, but it's there. I was about to do a Woolard and go, it's there to pick up if you want to, basically in Warwickshire. Waymo with an E on their YouTube channel, or it's sort of all across their Instagram as well. And the third thing I've got to tell you is that Benny Hill and Frankie Howard died on consecutive days.
Well. Bloody hell.
But it's weirder than that, because Frankie Howard died, and then it turns out the very next morning Benny Hill died, but he wasn't found because he lived alone for a couple of days.
Benny Hill wasn't found for a few days?
No. So the day after Frankie Howard died, the papers ran the news of his death and included a quote from Benny Hill saying that they were great friends.
Oh.
But people didn't realise at this point that Benny Hill was already dead. And in fact, the quote had been given to the newspapers by his manager. As far as people knew, there was dear old Benny Hill saying Frankie Howard be much missed, not knowing that poor old Benny Hill had in fact also left us.
Oh gosh.
Quite a weird situation. But yeah, poor old Benny Hill was just, it was when he wasn't answering his phone. Someone finally went a couple of days later and investigated, and there he was in an armchair.
Oh, right. Well,
it's a cheery note on which to end our popular car podcast, isn't it? By talking about the sad life of a long deceased comedian.
No, don't think about the deceased comedian. Think about the forklift world championships.
Oh, well, that's cheered me up immediately.
Exactly.
I'm eating a currywurst with a stein of lager, watching someone lift a fridge into a high cupboard.
It's not one fridge, mate. It would be 8 fridges on top of one another. These guys are the world leaders of this shit.
Well, this just gets better and better. Yeah. We'll investigate this further. But for now, thank you ever so much for listening. We're back on Friday with another Ot or Sot answering your questions. Until then, goodbye.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Bye. Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Bye. Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Bye.
So you've enjoyed this podcast, but you've had a thought. Is there a way here today that you could show support? Well, you could join our Patreon. What wonders that it brings. Early shows and extra notes on that side of things. You could buy our merchandise. We've mugs and hats, but still no ties. One day we will make those pies, but in the meantime, guys, hey guys, like and subscribe, and maybe leave a nice review. Like and subscribe, we know you know just what to do. Like and subscribe, we don't want to take the piss. Like and subscribe, but we were told to ask for this. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Lovely sit down.
Plus the VAT.